If I may.
Gary?
And the process for receipt of monies and how it's going into City of Pullman's account, and that was a concern of ours as well. We're sending money to another state for a project that, although it's our regional airport as well, it's located in another state. Pullman's concern was, even as their dealings with the airport board, they wanted to make sure that they had a resolution covering all of those contingencies. So the finance directors of both cities sat down and talked about, okay, how can we make this work so we can make sure that the money that we put in as match is accounted for and it is used for the airport and for the airport alone in conformance with the resolution and the grant.
There's a point I want to make to Jim here, too. Jim, this resolution will take effect, the money end of it, after October 1st. I mean, this isn't something like next week the check goes over to Pullman. It's going to be a while. This is part of the budget process. It's going to be in front of the workshop on the 13th and 14th. That will, as we're going along.
So, I need to correct you on that. I'm actually, we have $250,000 in the 15 budget, and I'm going to request another $250,000 in amendment for this 15 year in anticipation that this would happen before September 30th of this year. Now, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but that's what I'm trying to do as far as appropriation-wise. But I'm pretty confident, based on the conversations you've had, Bill, and that Gary's had with Pullman and myself as well, that this will coalesce together. And that's my hope. And Tony's exactly right. There is a whole process. This is just one element of a series of processes that's going to be occurring, as Gary outlined, and you've seen it before, is where if they come up with $16 million, and I think that's the first appropriation that we were talking about that Pullman signed and that you'll be seeing in 2 weeks, is that authorization. We have to have grant match for that. So this is coming together pretty quickly, and I'm pretty confident that this will happen.
You had a question, Dan?
Well, if you go to what we actually resolve in this resolution, it doesn't even mention the airport. It's resolving to allow us this interfund borrowing. I mean, we're going to see more resolutions as this comes down the road, and if this whole thing goes away before we write a check, this resolution is moot. But we got to have it if we want to move forward.
Walter?
Thank you, Mayor. It does mention the airport.
I'm talking in this last, therefore be it resolved.
I'm talking about the whereases.
Right, the whereases say all kinds of airport stuff. But
Yeah, the next to last whereas says, whereas as a sponsor with the City of Pullman pertaining to the airport,
Right.
City's commitment will be to participate equally in the financial aspect with our partner to ensure the realignment occurs. Now, I don't know how binding that is on this or future councils, but that looks to me like a pretty good commitment to 1/2 of 8.125% of what's known now as $119 million, which may or may not be the top number before this is all over. Gary made a point that is correct, but not, I don't think, quite on point. He talks about we have made authorizations with the airport for other grants either all the time or in the past, and that's correct. But everyone that I remember in the 7.5 years I've been on council have been to authorize the airport to use user fees as that match money, not City of Moscow money, which is different.
Well,
We're talking about City of Moscow money here.
and you're talking about a teeny portion in relationship to this project. I mean, you're talking about $119 million versus a small amount in relationship, Walter.
I'm sorry, Mayor, you will never get me to tell the citizens of Moscow $2.5 million is a small amount of money. Not going to happen.
Okay.
Another
Appreciate your point, Walter. Anybody else got any comments? John, you haven't?
No, I think Dan pretty succinctly put it together. And
Wayne?
I can understand the contention. I can understand the concerns on this. I also understand that as taking a leadership role, we need to move forward with putting the resolutions together to create the funding mechanism, which is what this does. if we were committing ourselves to the entire $2.5 million in one shot, I would have a lot more concerns than what I have right now. At the same time, I also have the faith in the city of Pullman and in the other entities that this funding will come together. I think that we have enough controls in place here that by passing this resolution tonight, we can still maintain control of the $500,000 per year over the next 5 years. And so that if things start looking like we're having an issue, we can hold back on some of the funding. Tony, you said that the city of Pullman, each phase, when the bill comes through, the city of Pullman, once that portion of the grant has been accepted, then the work begins on that phase, correct?
Correct.
Okay. When that's done, and during that time, the contractor's saying, I need some money. And the city of Pullman is paying the contractor in its entirety.
Mm-hmm.
And only after all that is done does the city of Pullman get reimbursed for the 90, what percent?
Right, well,
91
it's
point-
done in pieces. So this first grant is 16, and I have the grant offer. The first grant offer is 15 million discretionary, 1 million entitlement, which is the airport's entitlement money we receive every year. So that grant will cover wetland mitigation. It covers design to a certain percent. It covers land acquisition, a Vista power line relocation, and there's a small earthwork package. Each one of those, as it becomes substantially complete, the contractor can make a request for payment, and our engineers and the consultants say, okay, yes, there's 50%. We can verify there's 50%. Here's construction reports. That all goes to the FAA. We approve the recommendation of payment from the consultant. The payment is made by the city of Pullman. They're out the money. It's gone. And then we go through Delphi, which is a computerized system with the FAA, and give them all of their invoices, all of the receipting, all of everything. They look at it, they concur, and a reimbursement comes to the city of Pullman. So the shortfall is there.
Minus the 8 point,
Minus the match.
yeah.
And so each successive piece, as we're going through every grant, we do every grant this way, has a myriad of controls. There are many, many, many. So the first control piece is the acceptance of a grant, and then we move from there. But each successive step is controlled. I can't get a reimbursement from the FAA by giving them a couple of pieces of paper. It's a significant amount of attachments and everything else. We have to show them, yes, the work was done, and here it is. Here's pictures. Here's construction reports. It was done in accordance with the FAA standards with asphalt or land or the Uniform Relocation Act, or however we have to do it, because we have to follow all of the federal processes. We can't.
How much is this first grant?
It'll be $16 million.
Well, this first phase for $16 million is completed. We've sent $500,000. Pullman's writing a check
For 1.3.
for $15,500,000. They will then be reimbursed the other percentage.
Right. 1.3 is the match.
Their
on the
money
16.
is, they already have money out of their pocket, and if they're not getting reimbursed by the other entities, Pullman is the one that's really out on the hook, then it sounds like.
Correct.
The city of Pullman has to come up with, if all this work is done, they have to come up with the $15 million or whatever out of their budget process somehow. So they are pretty well committed by signing that grant.
They signed the grant.
They signed that, so whether or not we give them $500,000 or not, they're on the hook for $16 million.
Probably more worried about us.
Well, the percentage is 16 million.
Well, yeah, the
8.125%.
90% of it or
the
whatever, but
match.
still considerably more than 500,000.
Yep, you got it.
So whether or not the city council votes the match or not, they still have to pay the whole thing
Well, they got to
until they get the reimbursement.
It's a different scenario for
They're-
them.
That is
Jim, they're just fronting it. By signing the grant, they're guaranteed reimbursement of the 91%, whatever it is. But yes, they have to find the cash somewhere in the
Sounds like
basement of
it's
City
there.
Hall. Now, if I may, Tony, the city also accepted a $30 million grant?
No. So what happened with that, and you'll see that in 2 weeks.
Which one is the land? The 16 or the 30?
The land's in the 16.
Okay.
So what happened with the 30, and what Pullman passed last week, is when we went to the FAA, and we were programmed for 16 million. 1 million entitlement, 15 million discretionary, and that is programmed through the next 5-6 years. What the FAA said was apply for 30. The reason being is at the end of the year, September 27th rolls around, and airports all over the country that have projects, if they can't do the project, money starts
They
dumping.
plan on having some change laying around.
Right, and they put it towards high priority projects, and they told us to be prepared to accept high priority project, which if we can get the funding earlier, it always keeps the price down. It allows us to get our funding cycles ready for contractors and everything else, and actually put bids out there where we know we have the funding. So that's in anticipation of year-end monies in whatever form that may be.
Bill,
John?
I would make a motion that we approve the the resolution authorizing the finance director to purchase interfund investments from other city funds that do not interrupt city operations or capital improvement plans.
I second that.
Okay, John made a motion, and Art made a second, to approve the resolution authorizing the finance director to purchase interfund investments from other city funds without interruption of the city operation or capital improvements. Walter?
Just one final comment before this vote. Y'all heard Don say he intends to write a $500,000 check to the city of Pullman by September 30 of this year.
I don't think he said that.
Don?
I said we were going to appropriate that, and if things coalesce together, yes, we'll be writing that check, but I have
Right.
confidence that we would, but there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen in between now and September 30th.
If I may, when Don says we're going to appropriate that, he means you people on the dais. Staff does not appropriate money.
Oh, that's true.
With that, I'll start the vote with you, Walter.
No.
Aye.
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 Okay, that resolution passed 5-1. Thank you, everybody.